Hopefully you're all tuning in for today's live stream for our phrases to use in business meetings. So we'll be going through all the different phrases you can use to open and start a meeting, maybe prep for the meeting, what to say during meetings, introducing people, and then how to close out of meetings. So if you're ever going to have a business meeting in English, this will be really helpful. Okay, so if you have any comments or questions throughout the stream, please send those into the chat. And before we get into the content, first, if you look at this banner right here, and if you go into the description, there will be a link for your free Core Words ebook. And you can download your free 2000 English Core Words. This will be great for you to study, to improve your fluency, your vocabulary. With this ebook, which is completely free, you can study on the go, on the train, when you're commuting to work. So please go ahead and click that link in the description below. Okay, and just in case those of you who haven't seen me before on the stream, I am Daphne and I am from the US, so I will be going through English phrases to use in business meetings. Okay, so what we have first, which you can see right here on the screen, is setting the right tone for the meeting. So maybe before you actually start a meeting, you might want to send an email to let people know about the meeting. You might want to kind of give them a heads up about the meeting. So what you can say is, we have the first phrase, I propose we meet about, and then whatever your topic is. So I propose we meet about discussing next month's goals. Then you can also say something, or email in your email, write something like, I'd like to arrange a meeting to discuss. Please mark your calendar for, so maybe you've decided that the meeting will be next month on the 5th. So you might say, please mark your calendar for June 5th for our meeting to discuss, and then whatever you want to discuss with your meeting. Then we have, please review the agenda beforehand so we can get started right away. So maybe you have a document with maybe some of the points and goals that you want to cover throughout your meeting. Then you can send that through your email and have people review it before you actually get started in the meeting. And I see a lot of people commenting, hello, hello, good morning, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I see people from China, awesome, from Mexico, Vietnam, and all around the world. This is a really international group. Love that, love that. Okay, and again, if you have questions or any comments, or if you have phrases that you've used in business meetings, feel free to type those into the comments, into the chat. So, okay, we've gone over setting the right tone for the meeting. So this is to prep for your actual meeting. Now we will get into phrases for opening and starting a business meeting. So to officially start the meeting, the best thing you want to do is to acknowledge everyone's presence in the meeting and thank them for joining, for their time. So of course, you can start that by saying something like, thank you for taking the time to attend today. Or I appreciate everyone being here on time. Since everyone is here, let's get started. Yes, so these are all phrases that you can use just to open up once everyone comes into the meeting. And I also see somebody ask a question, is it impolite starting an email with hello? No, not necessarily. So you can say something like hello and then the person's name. So hello, John, I hope this email finds you well, and then continue on there. Excuse me, my voice is kind of going today, but hopefully it will last through the rest of the stream. Okay, so this is how you can open and start a business meeting. Next, the best thing you want to do is introduce yourself. So maybe some of the people who are joining the meeting might not necessarily know you so well. They could be your colleagues, coworkers, or maybe they might be from different departments. So you can introduce yourself and give some context about why you called this meeting in the first place. So what is this meeting for? Why you decided to have this meeting? And some of the phrases that you can use are right here. So I'd like to start with a quick introduction about myself. And you can say my name is, say your name. So my name is Daphne. I'm in the marketing department, and today I called this meeting, and then explain what it's for. And you can also say, for those of you who aren't familiar with my role, I work in human resources, and then maybe give like a sentence or two about your main responsibilities and your role. You can also talk maybe a little bit about your department. Then I arranged this meeting to discuss, and then you can list out briefly just a quick summary about what the goals you have for this meeting are. Then the last phrase that I have on the board is there are a number of items on the agenda for today. So first, we will do this. Second, I'd like to discuss our weekly findings. And then finally, I would like to go over next quarter's goals and things like that. So these are all phrases that you can use to really start and get into the meeting. Ooh, and I see people joining in and more people typing into the comments. That is lovely, great. Hello, hello, greetings. Yes, love that. Let's see. Somebody said, can I use thank you for coming today in business meeting? Yes, you can. So thank you for joining us today, or thank you for taking your time to attend this meeting. That would be perfect. And hello, somebody's from Germany, from Syria, awesome. And ooh, I see someone from Japan. I'm also in Japan right now, so that is amazing. Okay, and if, again, there are any questions, feel free to type that into the comments and the chat. Okay, so now we have make introductions. So this one might be to introduce other people who are in the meeting. So everyone gets to, share a little bit about themselves before you actually get into the big content of the meeting. So you can say, I'm going to start off by asking everyone to introduce themselves or briefly introduce themselves. So then you might do like a little round table, and each person will say their name, maybe their department, their role, a little bit about what they do, and then continue on. You can also say something like, let's take a moment and introduce ourselves. And then the person next to you might start, and then again, go around the table. Maybe if, for example, you might have a special guest speaker or somebody who's new and joining or something like that, you might say, I'd like to welcome Mr. Smith from XYZ, and then introduce that person. So that would be one way to help get everyone acquainted with each other. Okay, so now once you've done all that intro stuff, you've got everyone acquainted with each other, you kind of gave your whole rundown of what today's meeting will be about, then these are phrases that you can use during the actual bulk of the meeting. So first, you might need to know some of these phrases to discuss your work and your expertise. So whatever you're working on and what you're knowledgeable in. So maybe if you're trying to share your opinion, you can say, from my perspective as the marketing manager, it seems that, and then share what you know based on your findings, what you've been doing at work. Another phrase you can use is, the way I see things, our best course of action is to, and then share your opinion on what you think people should do. Then over there, right here, we have, because I've done the research, it's clear to me that, so maybe you've had to do a little bit of research and you found some very good information that will help you set whatever it is that you want to talk about. And because of your research, you can say, it's clear to me that, or because I've done the research, I believe we should, and then share your opinion that way. Then we have, based on my work, there's no doubt that. So these are all phrases. You can kind of mix and match some of them as well. So based on my work, it's clear to me that, or based on my work, I believe we should do this, and then something like that. And again, if you missed the beginning of our live stream, there is a link in the description. You see this banner right here, and then the screen right in the center. There will be a 2,000 core words ebook that you can download for free. You don't have to pay anything, and this will help you improve your fluency, your vocabulary. So please feel free to go ahead and click that link in the description, and that will send you right to download our lovely core words ebook. And I'm sure you will have a great time improving your vocabulary. And don't forget to go ahead and click that link. Okay, so moving on, these are more phrases for what you can say during a business meeting. So maybe your colleague, your coworker decides to share their point of view or their ideas, and you want to give some feedback. So for example, if you're agreeing with them, you can say, that's a great point, or I have to agree with John over here. So maybe I have to agree with John. I believe that this goal is just not feasible for next week. Maybe if you're not fully on agreement or in agreement with the colleague that you're working with, you might say something like, I see where you're coming from, but I believe it might be better to, or I see where you're coming from, but in my opinion, I think. You can also say something like, that's certainly one option. However, we can also try to. And then maybe if you're kind of like not so sure, but you want to see if they have other ideas, so you can say something like, that's an interesting proposition. Do you see any alternatives? And then ask a question that way. You can also just make a suggestion and be like, perhaps it would be best if. And you can also suggest something by saying, I think we should try, and then whatever it is you think people should try. Or maybe if you're not so sure, you can even ask a question. Would it be possible if, and then say your idea that way. And again, if there are any questions or examples, I would love to see those in the chat and in the comments. So please type out examples that you might have, maybe phrases that you've used during your business meetings, or if you have a question about whether a phrase is okay for a meeting or not, please type that in. And I will try my best to answer as much as I can. That would be very appreciated if you all could contribute and go ahead and type into the chat and comments. Okay, so now during your business meeting, you might be having to go over multiple topics. So maybe the first thing on your agenda you've covered, and then you want to go on the next topic. So for example, these are some transitional phrases that you can use. why don't we turn it over to, so maybe you have a guest speaker or somebody who is more knowledgeable on a certain aspect. So maybe you are in the marketing department, but somebody else is doing sales. So you can say, why don't we turn it over to Mary for her to discuss the recent sales that we've had, and then something like that. Or you can say something like, let's move on to, and then whatever your next topic is. If nobody has anything else to share, let's turn to. Oh, I see someone share an example. That's awesome. So this is maybe for what I was going over before, the slide previously. So you're right. However, I think we might. Yes, that's great. So yes, you're right. However, I think we might do this, or however, I think we should. Perfect. Thank you for the example. Awesome, awesome. So a couple other transitional phrases that you can use would be if nobody else has, or if nobody has anything else to share, then let's turn to, or let's move on to. You can also say, now that we've covered that, we can talk about, and then the next thing. I'd like to turn it over to John, who is going to talk more about our past whatever, or who is going to talk more about, and then whatever their expertise might be. Then the last phrase that I have is now, and then you can say the person's name. So now, Alex, if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit more about, and then that person will share their findings, their research, their work. So of course, during a business meeting, you might have some questions. Other people might have questions. So here are some phrases for asking different questions. First, I have, would it be possible for you to give me an example of what you mean? So maybe the person shared their idea, their suggestion, their goal, and you're not really fully sure, so you want a concrete example. You can say something like that. Then, can I get a clarification on that point? So maybe you're not fully sure what the person said or what they're fully meaning. Then you can ask for clarification. Then the next phrase is, would you mind explaining that to me one more time? So maybe you're not sure if you heard correctly and you just want to double check. That's something that you could say. Okay. Is there anything else anyone would like to share? So maybe you've done a lot of the sharing and you want to see if other people have any other opinions or suggestions to chime in. Then we have, does anyone have any follow-up points? So you've gone over your topic, whatever you wanted to discuss, and you want to see if other people might have things to follow up on. Then, before we move on, are there any further questions? So you've gone over the first topic or the first content that you wanted to discuss. And just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, you can ask if people have any questions about what you just talked about. So these are all different ways. Of course, there's plenty more than what's on the board, but these are just at least 6 that you can use. Okay, so now sometimes maybe people might get a little bit off topic, so you can keep the conversation on topic by saying something like returning to our, sorry, there is a typo, returning to our item on our agenda, or the item on our agenda. Please go and ignore that. So returning to the item on our agenda. Then we have, let's hold off on that topic until we've resolved this one. So maybe you don't think today's meeting is great to cover and branch out into all these different topics. So you want to focus on a specific one. Then you have, would you mind holding on to your question until after the meeting is finished? Or would you mind holding on to your question until after we have finished reviewing this graph? And then the last one, I'm afraid that's out of the scope of this meeting, but we can address that another time. So this is to maybe set up for the next meeting, and just if there's an issue that right now this isn't what the meeting is about, so you want to focus on your current topic, and then for next time. Then, now, once you've gone through the bulk of your meeting, so all the phrases that you've covered during your meeting, you've gone through all your agenda, so you want to maybe signal and summarize what you've gone over in the meeting and let people know that, okay, you're about to end the meeting soon. So you can say something like, to summarize, we've discussed, and then just briefly list all the things that you've went over and gone over, and then the next phrase we have is, before we finish, let's recap our main points, and then maybe you can just very quickly list out what you guys have agreed on or what you have discussed. And then the next phrase is, here are the 3 main takeaways from our meeting. And so then you can summarize and talk about very briefly what you have discussed and the content of what is important from the meeting that people should remember. So takeaway. And again, if you have any comments or suggestions that you might have used, please feel free to type those into the chat, as these are not the only phrases that you can use. And somebody asked, would you mind explaining once again for a better understanding? Yes, that is a great example. So maybe you're not fully sure you understood correctly. So would you mind explaining that once again for me to understand better? Perfect. And then the last phrase that I have on the board here is, I'm going to briefly review the topics we've covered today. So it's always good to have a review, and it's always good to summarize so that people remember and just it's fresh in their mind, because maybe you've had a lot of things to discuss throughout your meeting. So just so that people don't completely forget everything, you give a quick summary, a short recap. Oh, somebody asked a question. What's the meaning of takeaway in the phrase? Oh, okay, so that's a great question. So here are the 3 main takeaways. So takeaway just means, like, for example, if you're taking something away, you're bringing it with you to go. So these are just the main points that you should remember from the meeting, and a main point that you should take back with you. So basically from this meeting, this is what you should take out of the meeting. And ooh, somebody asked a food, right? Yes, I mean, it is similar to a food for thought. So things that you should remember. Yes, that's what takeaway means. So that was a great question. Okay, so now maybe when you're wrapping up the meeting, you might still have some things that aren't fully discussed, or maybe some things that haven't fully been settled yet or decided upon. So then you can temporarily pause the issue, and it can be looked at or resolved another time or in a future meeting. So one phrase would be, as much as I'd like to keep this discussion going, I want to respect everyone's time. So maybe it's already been like 2 hours for this meeting, and that is quite a long meeting. So you don't want to keep everyone for that long. So then you can say, I want to respect everyone's time, and we will end our meeting here, but for next month's meeting, and then save the topic for next time. Then we also have, we've done some great brainstorming for today. Let's give our minds a rest and tackle the issue again during our next meeting. So you maybe had to think a lot and make a lot of suggestions, and you've all been using your brain for that meeting. So you might want to tell people that, okay, right now let's just take a break, and then we'll continue this next meeting. And the last phrase I have is, I know we're all busy people, so let's pause here for now. And then that's a way that you can save whatever issue you have for the next meeting. And now we have finally concluding and fully coming to an end. So these are some phrases that you can fully end your meeting. So you can say something like, if there's nothing more to discuss, I think we can wrap it up here. So you can finish up and end the meeting. Then we have, since we finished our agenda items, everyone is free to go. So you've done all the things that you've wanted to cover and discussed everything, then you can tell people, okay, we're done, and let them go. Then we have thank you to everyone who was able to join today. So of course, it's always nice to thank people for taking their time and to join the meeting. So it's difficult sometimes for people to find an agreed time for everyone to meet. So it's always nice to end by thanking people for joining the meeting. Okay, so somebody asked if it's my real voice. My voice is actually dying right now because I am a little bit sick, I think. So I'm kind of glad that it's lasted this whole live stream, but it is going a little bit. So that might be the reason. Okay. Let's see. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the comments, into the chat if you have any expressions that you might also have used. And again, before we finish out this live stream, here are some core words. Again, I mentioned earlier, if you click that link in the description right below, you can download your free ebook with our 2,000 core words. These are words that can be used in business meetings, daily conversation, conversation with friends. Very, very helpful, very useful. This will help you with your fluency, improve your vocabulary. So don't forget to go down in the description and click the link to download this ebook. It is completely free. You won't have to pay anything. So it will be a great thing to have in your toolbox. Okay. So thank you guys for joining this live stream. And don't forget to tune in next week. And the topic will be for next week, how to give your opinion on food and drinks. So I hope you guys all have a lovely, lovely day or evening, whatever time zone you are in. And thank you guys for joining.